Next question.
Mr. McKinney, a major environmental issue facing the state is the pollution of Long Island Sound. What responsibility do you have as governor to ensure our coasts and waterways are protected?
Well, that's a great question, and I live in Fairfield, Connecticut. I was born and raised in Fairfield, and proud to call it my home. Grew up basically playing in Long Island Sound as a kid, and I'm proud of my record in the state senate over the last 15 years, where I've gotten a number of environmental awards for trying to improve, clean up, and protect Long Island Sound. The first thing you need to do is make sure that the state has adequate funds and that the Democrats aren't sweeping funds from our clean water programs to make sure that towns and cities can get loans and grants from the state to clean up their water pollution treatment plants. Our facility in Fairfield has gotten rid of 96% of the pollutants and oxygen, so you eliminate hypoxia that happens in Long Island Sound. I also fought the Broadwater project because I bring natural gas into Connecticut by having a huge tanker out in Long Island Sound. It is our greatest natural resource, but it is also a great economic development tool with lobstermen, fishermen, the oyster industry. All needs to be promoted here in the state of Connecticut. I don't think this governor's done a good enough job, and as governor, I will do that.
Thank you. Mr. Foley.
Long Island Sound and the shoreline is one of the great natural assets that attracts people to Connecticut, both as tourists and to come and live in the state. It's something that we simply have to protect, but we have to have a balanced policy. Many towns are being bankrupted by mandated laws, both federally and at the state level, for their water treatment and other remediation requirements related to the environment. And we simply have to find ways to have a balanced policy so that we aren't putting such a huge strain on municipalities, and where appropriate and needed, it's assisted with state funding. But we also need to make sure that the regulatory environment is not excessive. We all know that it's well-intended policy, but sometimes when you get the regulators involved, it becomes so severe that it costs us jobs, it actually isn't doing what's intended, and results in impacts that we don't want. As governor, I want to make sure that all the regulatory agencies of my administration are implementing policy without being overzealous, and we will review all those policies and regulations to make sure that they actually are serving good public policy interests.
Thank you. Mr. Loretti.
Yes, being good stewards of the land and the water ensures our survival and ensures the stability of future generations, not only people who live in Connecticut, but the country. You know, there's two parts to this equation when you talk about Long Island Sound. One is that for years and years and years it was subjected to an awful lot of abuse, and that's been corrected over the course of time. The other part of the equation that you have to have cooperation is with the state of New York. And if you don't have a dialogue with the governor of New York and New Jersey to some extent, then that can be problematic because it can't be a one-way street. You know, I often wondered about the methodology employed by the DEP here in Connecticut when they site landfills next to rivers that run into Long Island Sound. And someone once told me that the solution to pollution was dilution. And so I still question that strategy. And quite honestly, I think that's wrong. And with today's technologies, we've made vast improvements with our wastewater treatment facilities, particularly along the coastline that feed directly into Long Island Sound. It was mentioned earlier about anaerobic activity that depletes the water of oxygen. You know, those things have helped the rebirth, if you will, of Long Island Sound. So we need to continue to be good stewards and diligent in terms of our effort to be able to ensure that it continues on the progress that it has made over the many years.
Thank you. Mr. Visconti.
This is one area I think we really need to step it up with the federal government and work with them and provide funding. I take my boat out at the Pawcatuck River in Stonington, and I frequent Sandy Point, where Connecticut, New York, and Rhode Island meet. It's a beautiful area. If you haven't been out there, you can get there by paddle boat or or small motorboat. And you'll see the difference when you're in Rhode Island, into New York, with the water, the overflow sometimes, and some of the beaches get closed, as you know, Rocky Neck, from bacteria. So we're going to have cycles of this pollutants coming into the sound. It's not something I think you can get rid of right away. But I watch out, Sandy Point is federally regulated as a sanctuary. And I think the federal government, New York, Rhode Island, and all the states, this is a place where basically regionalism can actually work to a better extent than it is. But I have to say, the boaters on Long Island Sound, Connecticut residents, and the New Yorkers and Rhode Island folk, they're great. The boating world is fantastic, and so I don't think we want to look at any blame coming from them. I've been out there for a decade or so, and I just think we have a beautiful sound. We want to preserve it. We are preserving it, but we need to step up with the dollars, not rate it from general fund, and put money into the sound.
Ms. Dean, thank you. Ms. Dean.
We've been ignoring the state of our infrastructure here in Connecticut for a long time. It's not just the roads and transportation systems, drains, but our sewage systems, our public treatment works are in dire need of funding and of modernization. So I've been involved with cases. I'm an environmental attorney, and I've been involved with cases of pollution that is still homes in West Hartford. With 6 feet of sewage that's overflowed in bad storm events. I've been involved with municipalities whose storm sewers have overflowed into the Long Island Sound, and also the city of Middletown overflowing its sewage into the Connecticut River. This is a very serious situation, and probably because businesses have been hit so hard and forced to clean up, it's probably one of the most significant remaining issues, environmental issues, that needs to be addressed. And I would make sure that we send funding in that direction and try to take it away from programs that the government should not be involved with. But also, we just need to properly steward our resources here, not just for the critters. It's not all about the desert forests or whatever. It's about preserving our country and our state for us, so that it's attractive to people and they want to come and live here and do business here.
Thank you. Mr. Boughton.
Well, I think we have a profound responsibility in protecting Long Island Sound for a variety of different reasons. One of them is that their harbors are could be a source of economic development. Just think if we got some of those tractor trailer trucks off of 95 and 84, and we're able to use our harbor system in a way that can help us grow jobs and grow our economy here in Connecticut. I also believe that DEEP has had a somewhat distorted, disjointed approach towards discharges, specifically with things like phosphorus. I don't want to get into the details because you'll be here all night, but the reality is that certain communities are given a pass and allowed to dump pretty much whatever they want in Long Island Sound, and other communities are held to a much different standard. And a lot of that is politically driven. Who has the largest delegation in Hartford to be able to make little tweaks to the laws to be able to support them? There's also a huge tourism aspect to Long Island Sound, and so if we lose a sound, or if it's perceived as not being a place that you want to go, a lot of our inns and motels along the coastline will lose business. Look, I'm running with Heather Summers from Groton. Nobody knows the Sound, nobody knows beachfront, and nobody knows our coastal communities better than her. And you will have a strong advocate in the governor's office to be able to address any challenges that we may have.
Thank you. At this point,